Today's video is coming to you from my hallway, which also doubles as my office, and that is because it is cold outside. So in order to brighten up a cold day, I thought we'd talk a little bit about which colour flowers I'm going to be growing for 2025. It's a new year, and now that the festive period has finally been put to bed for the next 12 months, I can begin to draw my attention to my 2025 growing season. What am I going to grow? And more importantly, for this video, in which colours? I have found myself looking through my vast collection of previously purchased and opened and sown seeds. Some of them I purchased in the autumn, but so far I've managed to refrain from buying any new seeds at the beginning of this year. Annoyingly, I seem to have lost a packet that I purchased in the autumn, which is one of my favourite colours of larkspur, which is Misty Lavender. And I know I purchased it because I've looked back through my records and I can see the receipt, but I have absolutely no idea what I've done with it. And I've been going through all of this seed stock to basically see what I need to order. And in the process of doing that, I've realised that I just have so much seed. Do I really need to order anything? And I think I've made the decision this year that I'm going to pretty much sow all of this seed, because owing to the fact I've been storing it for too long now, it's not quite as viable as it would have been when it was new, and the germination rates are much lower. So what I need to do is I need to sow or throw away pretty much this whole collection of seeds here. So sow it, and if it grows, great, and if it doesn't, throw it away, so that in the autumn I can start afresh with new seed. Because I mean, some varieties, things like phlox, you really do need fresh seed, whereas some things like calendula and zinnias, the seed seems to last much longer. But anyway, we'll go into more detail on what I'm sowing in a later video, because I'm pretty much sowing everything. But in this video, we're going to talk about which colours I'm sowing and why. So the result of this decision to sow the seed that I've got means that I'm really not supposed to order any more seeds until the autumn now, with the exceptions being if I've completely run out of something. So for example, my sunflowers orange up. And do you remember last year, those of you that follow me, I had ordered some lupin seeds and sown them, and then latterly realised that they were the annual version. So I'm allowed to reorder perennial lupin seeds. And the only other excuse I'm allowed to make to myself and you and everyone else is that I need it in a different colour, perhaps for an event. But those are the only reasons now for me ordering more seed. I really do need to use up the selection that I already have. And you can imagine by looking at this vast amount of seed here that there's going to be no change to my usual approach of growing way too many things. And I'm not going to be trying as many new varieties as particularly I tried last year. Last year I trialled a lot of new things, and a lot of them I loved and will definitely be growing again this year. But I'm trying one new thing. I'm trying this one. How would you say that? Omphaloides, I would say. I'm probably wrong. But anyway, if you've grown this before, let me know, particularly if you grew it as a cut flower, how you got on with it, and if you think it's been worth my trouble. I have actually already sown it, so I did that in the autumn, so it's already growing along. And I probably will try some again in the spring, just so I can do a comparison on autumn and spring sowing. But it does say on the front that it's easy to grow for borders and cutting. So have I been sucked in again by the packet? Let me know. It looks great on the pictures. And then the other thing that I'm going to try, which I did actually try last year and it was a fail for me, so it might be that I'm not going to be able to grow it. But again, let me know if you've grown it before and if you have any sowing tips for me for it. And it's the Salpiglossis sinuata. And I will write it on the screen because my pronunciation is probably really bad, and that was from the Happy Green shop. But I think I probably should have autumn sown that, and I didn't. So if you've got any advice on that one, let me know. But they're the only varieties I've got to seed and grow that I didn't have in the cut flower patch last year. Now, bouquet recipes are great, but I'm not a fan of building the same bouquet over and over and over again, so that I'm basically a robot building multiple bouquets that look exactly the same. I prefer, if I'm going to use a recipe, for the recipe to be a bit more vague, as in, I don't know, 3 spires, 3 fillers, 3 focal, 3 green. That's a really bad example because I put more flowers than that in a bouquet. But I tend to use that as my recipe idea, and then plus make sure that every bouquet includes something that's fragrant. And then for me, I like to model my bouquets using colour. So often I see bouquet recipes based on varieties of flowers. For me, I much prefer to have colour in the forefront of my mind, not forgetting the important design aspects of shape and texture. We are all very used to making our bouquets, including the basics, our focal flowers, our greenery, our filler, our spire or line flower of some description, you know, your snapdragons, your larkspur, things like that. And also air, you know, your things that just come out of the bouquet and look alive, things like your cosmos and your scabious. And even when I embarked on my growing and bouquet journey, that was something I did at least get right. But quite often, although I added all of those elements, my bouquets looked really busy and untidy. And that was because I hadn't considered the ratio of things and also the colour of them. And when I look back at those early bouquets, which I've mentioned before are a bit of an embarrassment to me, they're just not really in balance or harmony. When I did my business course, they spoke about lots of surveys that have been done that revealed that where retail bouquets are concerned, the most popular colours really are the bright and the bold. And then the contrast being that your wedding flowers do tend to follow trends, although you've always got the really popular greens and whites that seem to follow through the ages, and people never get tired of those. So when I sit down every year and think about what I'm going to grow, I always have a think about what colours they come in, and often I have an idea in my head long in the winter of what I'd like my spring, summer and autumn bouquets to look like in terms of colour. So I have that idea in my head before I sow the seed. For those of you that are familiar with my work, you will know that I do tend to favour the adjacent colour schemes, those colours being next to each other on the colour wheel, such as oranges and yellows, for example. Adjacent colour schemes use up to 1/3 of the colour wheel, the colours all being found next to each other. So using lots of shades of the same colour or monochromatic is also something you'll see in a lot of my bouquet work. A monochromatic colour scheme can use tints, shades and the full intensity of a single colour. Interest in the arrangement can be highlighted by the use of strong textural contrasts. This is an easy colour scheme to use. I mean, yellow is a great example of that. It can come in really quite dark, rusty yellows right to a very, very bright and vibrant yellow, as well as your very pale, sort of primrosy, almost white yellows. Adjacent colours definitely tend to be what I lean towards when I'm creating my bouquets, but I'm also a fan of using a complementary colour scheme, using colours that are directly opposite each other on the colour wheel. An example of that is that this autumn, those of you that follow along will know that I have planted tulips in my cottage garden, and I went for a complementary colour palette of purple and yellow. A complementary colour scheme is achieved by combining colours from the opposite sides of the wheel, such as yellow and purple. Any two complementary colours used together will intensify and enhance each other brilliantly. Avoid using equal amounts of the two colours and try not to use one flower of a different colour as it becomes too dominant. One design style that I'm really yet to get the hang of is the polychromatic. And that is basically using a huge array of colours together along with green to make them work balanced. A polychromatic colour scheme is the use of many colours together, and it's always cheerful and vibrant. The use of plain green foliage brings all the colours together harmoniously. And honestly, that probably is what I should be growing, because using a huge range of colours probably is more popular in retail work. But I'm just yet to get to grips with how I can put the bouquet together. And the reason I can't get it to work is because it's not my personal taste. Whereas for selling retail, I should be thinking about what my customers' taste is and not my own. When I chose to plant purple ranunculus in the autumn, I had absolutely no idea what the 2025 trends would be, but I chose purple ranunculus because I thought there may be a strong chance they would possibly be flowering at the same time as some of my daffodils. And then I thought, well, purple and yellow would be a good complementary scheme in a bouquet together. And we're yet to see if they actually will flower at the same time. I now have a vague idea of what I think the 2025 fashionable flower palette trend may be. And the reason I sort of feel like I've got a vague idea now is because I've been having inquiries for wedding florals from, several brides, and they all seem to be hitting particular parts of the same brief, which is some of the colours which they like and have chosen. So I've been looking at these pictures that these inquiring brides have been sending me, and I'll pop some pictures in. And I've got to say, I love it. I love the colour palette, and I'm sort of quite hopeful that, hopefully this will be the 2025 colour palette, because I think it's a really easy, I shouldn't say easy, but it's a good palette for us to work with because the colours are readily available. So I really want to make sure that my garden offers this palette of colours through the season. I think I'm going to be a little bit too short on time to get the palette in my garden for the spring, because I've already sort of gone the wrong way there. Well, you never know, maybe it will be purple. I've got purple stock and purple ranunculus, but we'll wait and see on that. But if it's going to be this colour palette, sort of pinks and oranges, then I probably can have that available in my garden by sowing the right annuals for that now in the spring for them to flower from June onwards. So then hopefully from June onwards I will be able to create bouquets which incorporate this potential trend of pinks and oranges. And yes, that reliable apricot colour, which just seems to go with everything and doesn't go out of fashion. And the great news about this seemingly on-trend palette is that pinks and oranges are readily available colours in so many easy-to-grow cut flowers. And just a few examples of that, because there are so many, are antirrhinums, so your snapdragons, cosmos, zinnias, dahlias, poppies and asters. And as I say, that is just a few. Asters probably I wouldn't put in the easy to grow bracket, not for me anyway, but the others are so easy to grow and easily come in an array of different shades of those colours. There are so many flowers that will work in this sort of colour palette, and luckily for me, many of my open seed packets, if they germinate, will definitely work for me to create those types of bouquets. And with apricots still seeming to dominate as a very, very popular flower colour, I will definitely be sure to grow some pale lilac lavender type colour flowers in my garden so that I can grow that along with the apricot for a beautiful and my personal favourite complementary colour scheme. So with that in mind, I really need to search and find my missing brand new packet of Misty Lavender Larkspur seeds. What is your favourite colour palette, and what do you think the on-trend colour palette for 2025 is going to be? Are there any colours that you really don't like and really don't want to grow in your garden? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know what your thoughts on this are. I am going to be starting some of my first seed for 2025 at the weekend, and that will be the next video that I'll put out. Obviously, I'm not going to start growing everything, but things that will grow in darkness, so I can start them in the dark in my airing cupboard, will definitely be a good place to start. And I always tend to start my snapdragons early because for me they are so slow. So I like to get my snapdragons started in January every year as well. And I was looking through my packet of snapdragons, and we can definitely say we've got some of the colour palette here. We've got some pink here, some sort of pinks here, and then oranges. We all know what a fan I am of the Chantilly bronze, and that's an orange. So hopefully snapdragons, I've already got colours that will work really well in the palette that certainly the brides who have contacted me have been keen to have for their weddings. If you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to follow my growing and cut flower journey, then you can subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to contribute towards the making of the video, you can buy me a coffee. And a big thank you to Gina, who bought me 3 coffees as a little New Year gift. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am and how much that spurs me on and gives me that extra encouragement to keep making these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.